Hello and thank you so much for joining me tonight. If you don't know who I am, my name is sashareade and I do technique-based card tutorials over here on YouTube. And tonight I'm going to dive straight in and share with you some fun tutorials. We're going to do 3 different cards and there are 3 different techniques for the cards plus a bonus one to kind of change up the third technique a little at the end. But the whole entire point of tonight's video is to give you card inspiration that does not involve any specific dies. So there are no specific branded dies to create these 3 techniques for these cards. So you should be able to use whatever you've got in your stash. I am using dies and I am using a die cutting machine. So that is something that is essential for tonight's video. But we are not using specific dies that are required in order to cut the design and style of the card for the technique we're doing. So I'm going to give you a quick little preview and then we're going to dive in on making them. So we're going to do an easel card. So I've got that one here. We are going to do a rotating card. I don't remember what this one's called. We're going to do one of these where it rotates. And I've got 2 different kinds of style of spinner card to share with you. So there's 2 of these, 2 different versions. And as a little reminder, I would absolutely love if you guys would comment, like, share, subscribe. All of that keeps my channel going and keeps me getting paid by YouTube and in order to do this content for free for you. As a little side note, it's really quite funny when I look at my statistics at how few people that watch my videos are subscribed. So for this video here, I had over 50,000 views and I only had about 30 to 40% of you that were actually subscribed watching that one video. And it does make a world of difference to us content creators when people are subscribed to the channel. For whatever reason, it helps our algorithm and YouTube sees us as more of a superstar and then therefore we get promoted even more. So I really appreciate when you guys do take that extra little step. There's also a little bell notification down in the bottom right. So if you want to be notified when my videos are released, you can press that as well. So I'm starting out with this paper pad here from Paper Rose. It's such a fun, bright, vibrant paper and I found some cardstock that matched and I'm going to go ahead and cut myself a card base. Now this would be a top folding card base and the base for every single one of these cards that we're doing is essentially the exact same thing. And this is why I wanted to do this video for you because they all start out the same way. We are going to take our cardstock, we are going to fold it in half, and then we are going to fold it in half again on one of those sides. Super, super simple. This kind of baseline for the card is how every single one of these cards is going to work. And this card, I think all 3 of the cards actually, you could either do top folding or normal folding, which will be the rest of my cards. So this one is a top folding note card. And all I do for each of my cards is I fold it in half again, and then I measure what those distances are, and then I cut my little panels to match those distances and have about 1/8 of an inch smaller. So for mine, I've got my black panels as the background with my designer paper on the top, and then for inside, I have the white space that I can write a message in my card. Now these dies are new in my stash and I thought they looked perfect for doing this card. They were sat on my desk and I thought, let's use these. So by all means, you don't need these. You just need some kind of shape, some kind of element to decorate the front of your card. And it is only going to be glued down to that bottom half of the card. So you want something that will fit within the card. It's only going to get glued to that bottom. It could be a nice, cute little picture that came with your designer papers. Often they have like those little beautiful designs that you could cut out and put as a card front. You could use those. You could stamp your own sentiment, do whatever your heart desires. These are the stamps and sentiments I'm using for this card. I just wanted to use these dies because they're so stinking cute and they were sat on my desk in front of me. So I've gone ahead and cut out that panel. I cut the little background panel for it. And then I stamped my sentiment on a white panel to go on the very top. And I'm applying glue only to half of this element. So just the bottom half of the element. And then I'm going to stick it onto the bottom half of that bit of card. Now it doesn't need to stick up over the edge. It could just be on that bottom panel. It doesn't need to be an element that goes over both of the panels. But it just needs to be something to add a little bit of extra to the front of your card. Now, I don't have a background layer die for this die that came in that set, so I decided to cut myself a second one, chop off the ends and glue them onto the ends. So it looks like I've had a second die as a shadow outline, but actually I've just had one die and used it and stretched it. Now this little sentiment element is going to be what pops up our easel card. You can use anything you like. You could use a big chunky one. You could use a flower. You could use whatever you like as long as you stick it up with some foam. And you need to work out where you want it to go. So I wanted to have my message on the inside of the card. So I wanted to put the sentiment down towards the bottom. So I had plenty of space to write my message, but you could stick it further up, and I'll show you that on my next little sample card. But I'm just going to pop it down, try and aim for nice and central across the bottom of that card, and then that's what holds up that top part of the card. So this is a super quick and easy easel card, folds flat, and because it's a standard size card, it will fit in a standard size envelope as well. Super cute, got my space there for my message to the recipient. Now if you wanted your easel to prop up even higher, you could use the back of the card as the space for your message, and you could just put a bit of white cardstock on the back. Now the next sample that I've got is one I made a little while ago, and I used a nice big chunky element on the top, and I did a more square card. And then this one I put the message up higher on the card so that that easel props up a lot taller. And then I've got the space on the back of the card for my message to the recipient. So that's two different versions of the same style of card. Now we're starting with the next one, and we are going to do the exact same thing as we did before. We are going to fold it in half, and then we're going to fold it in half again. We're going to fold it back on itself so that it is going towards the edge of the card, and you get this kind of Z looking like structure. But again, it's the same thing as the first one. But this one I am doing with a landscape rather than a portrait, I guess you could say. And for this one, I thought these little flowers would work really, really nicely. And so I decided to use those for this card. You could use circles, you could use stars, whatever your heart desires. The only thing that you need to bear in mind is that it needs to be a symmetrical die, because we're going to the front and the back, so it needs to be the same on all the sides. Now in my next technique, I will share with you what you can do if you don't have a symmetrical image, but you want, like, for the image that you want to use, I'll share with you a little trick on how you can make it a symmetrical image. So we are going to do partial die cutting now, and I'm going to line up my die, and I'm going to put my plate only up to that central crease. We're not going over that crease. We only want to die cut that left hand side, not all the way across. So you're only going to put your die cutting top plate up to the crease, and then you will only have it cut that one area. Now my cardstock is a bit thin and my paper is a bit thin, so it works nice. I can cut through that nice and easy. If you use super thick cardstock, you may struggle to get through the paper and the card at the same time. So that is something to bear in mind when you're doing this. Now you can see the fun effect that we're getting going on. So we need to cut out our elements that are going to go on and kind of cover up that area. So I cut myself a base in the holographic foil and then a white sort of little panel to go over the top. Then we're going to apply glue to the entire thing. So you can't see here because I flipped it over, but that edge that is to the left is the one that is attached to the card. So I have glued that element to the entire piece of cardstock that we have die cut on the left and left flat on the right. So you can see there now when I flipped it over, that is glued all the way on. And now I can go ahead and do the other side, which is the front of the card. So I chose a nice funny little sentiment on the inside. And for the outside, I'm going to just go with Happy Birthday from the scrapbookdotcom set. Now all the things I use in this video today will be in the description box below. So if there's a stamp set or a die set that I've used that interests you, you can check it out with the links. They are in the description box below. You just have to hit the little arrow to drop it down and open it. And then the links will be in there for you. If I have forgotten anything, just post it in the comments and I will do my best to add that in and send it to you. Now that the flippy bit is done, I wanted to decorate the other side of the card. I wanted to be able to write my message to the recipient, but I also really wanted another piece of that designer paper that kind of matched with the front ones to go on. So I've cut myself another card base and then trimmed it down by 0.5 centimeter on two sides so that it fits just nice and snug inside the original card base. And that way I get kind of a card inside of a card. And I love doing this to add extra space to write a sentiment or a message in. And it adds continuity for the card. So you get this gorgeous look with the paper kind of stretching across. And then, hello, there's a little card inside. I love doing that. And I've done that for the rest of the cards as well. I just find it gives you a lot more space to work with. You could go ahead and stamp in there as well, another bit of a sentiment if you wanted. So that is the sort of flippy card done. I don't know what this is called. I can't remember, but it's a technique that's been around for a long time. So we're going to move on to the third one, and the third one is the same again. So we're going to fold the card in half and fold the card back in half again. So we get that sort of Z fold look going on. Now for this one, we are going to do a spinner card. Now again, like the last one, I really wanted to have that card element to it. And because it's got the front folded over already on itself, I thought it'd be nice again to add a card inside a card, just so that I can have that decorative paper there to go underneath the spinner element, but I still have somewhere to write my message. Now, as I mentioned before, you can always use the back of the card for your message if you don't want to have a card inside a card. So this is a bit trickier. This is a lot thicker. I've got to get through 2 layers of card and a layer of designer paper. So you could always cut your cardstock first and then place your paper on top and cut your paper. That would probably be easier than what I did, but I did manage to cut all the way through. And then I just kind of trimmed with a pair of scissors that kind of rough edge that I got. But if you cut your card base first and then cut your paper once you've glued it on top of the card base, you should be able to slot that die back in where it cut a hole and then be able to line it up perfectly. Now here's where I was saying these ones are not identical. So the front is not the same as the back. And I've got some white poking out. If you're not bothered, you could do it like that. But a solution to be able to get an even or an identical die cut is to use something like a circle or a square or an element that you know is the same from the front as well as the back. This is going to stick to each other, so we really need it to be the same on the front and the back. So by using a circle, it means I can still use these cute little flowers and have them match up. Now next you're going to need some string. So I'm using some embroidery thread. This is the cheap stuff you can get at the dollar store or the pound shop. And all you need is a piece that is the length of your card. I'm going to use some sticky tape, some double-sided sticky tape, just to make it easier and stick that string down a bit quicker. You can use liquid glue, but you will find that you'll have to wait a bit of time for the dry time to happen. Whereas if you use a bit of double-sided sticky, you can stick that string straight down and it'll be ready to go right away. So I got mine a little bit off center, so I decided to stick a second piece down, which is why you can see me adding a bit more tape. And then we're going to take that string and put it right where the crease is. So just follow the crease, stretch it nice and tight all the way from the top to the bottom. And that is all we have to do with that bit of string. We're going to stick it down to that tape. And for a little bit of extra security, I'm going to add a little bit more tape over the top of the string as well. And I'll peel that layer off, the release paper off, so I can then use it as a sticky as well. And I'll add some adhesive to the one side. We don't need to add it to both because we're just going to fold it over, so it doesn't really matter. We're going to fold it back on itself and let that adhesive really stick together before we move on to the next step. So now we've got this funny looking card with a bit of string down the middle of it. I'm going to go ahead and add my central bits in now where I've made up my second bit of card. And I'll add a nice little white panel on the inside there as well for my message to the recipient. So the next thing we need to do is add our elements on, and it is dead simple. All we need to do is line it up straight through the middle of that string. So I'm going to make sure that my little element is in the center and have the string going down the center of that element. I'll add some sticky tape just to make sure it's nice and stuck quick, and I'll add some adhesive onto it, and then I can go ahead and add on the second element. And now you can see it spins. So we want to spin it in our hand before we close the card, and then that way when the person pulls it out the envelope and they open it up, it gives a nice little spin. So you could either do it this way with the spinner element on the outside, or you could tuck that spinner element onto the inside so that when they open out the outside, it spins more. So that gives you a bit more decorating capability. You could decorate the other edge of that as well. Now I went and stamped out happy and birthday again and cut them out with a pair of scissors, and then I've attached happy on one side and birthday on the other so that it spins, saying that lovely little phrase. Now here's my little white panel to go on the inside for my message, and that is my card finished. And I'm sorry because this little bit here, I'm a little bit off screen. I didn't quite get my card lined up under my camera when I was filming this last little bit. Now I wanted to make another one to share with you a different version of doing the spinner card. So it's still a spinner card, but a slightly different variation. I decided to use my Christmas papers from Paper Rose Studios, and I originally thought I would do these little cute owls, but I found that the owls ended up with their heads cut off and their legs cut off, and then I knew I was going to cut the middle out, so I really felt like it was a bit of a pointless design, so I decided to go with these gifts instead. Now I am temporarily taping down my panel to the front of my card. I don't want to glue it down just yet because the spinner element is going to go between these two layers, so we do not want them glued together yet. Now you can do this without the low tack tape, but I find it a lot more difficult, and I always worry about things shifting in my die cutting machine when I run it through. So that is why I'm using this low tack tape from scrapbookdotcom, and I am just simply sticking down all the edges and holding my paper nice and central. Now if you did a panel the exact same size as your card base, then you wouldn't need to do this step. You could just die cut it out of both in the center, but I am sticking them down so I've got them perfectly lined up and I've got a nice little border. So once I've run that through my die cut machine and I've cut myself a little circle, I can take off the low tack tape and then we can start assembling our nice little spinner element. So again, I'm going to use that double-sided tape and I'm going to go straight for the middle of the card. I'm eyeballing it, not measuring. And I'm going to apply that adhesive down, and it's the same as the last one. So we're going to stick that adhesive on and then add our little string to that central point, making sure it's nice and tight down the middle. And then we are going to add that top panel back over the top. Now, because I gave myself a nice little border, I do need to make sure that my string and my tape are not poking out the top and the bottom, because I've got about 1/8 of an inch on each of those edges, and I don't want that element, or I don't want those bits that are hidden to be showing through the top and bottom. I'm going to add some liquid glue to the entire back of that panel. I'm adding a decent amount because I don't want it to shift or move about or lift with that string underneath there. I want that string really, really nice and glued down. So this one is a bit simpler than the last one. It's definitely easier for die cutting, but it just gives you a different look to the spinner card. Now again, you could put your sentiment in the inside or on the back, but I went for the double card look and I did a little card inside so that I could have that designer paper showing through as well. Now I have these new in my stash, and they are a cute little Christmas set that come with like a little die that cut them all out. And it's really nice because they are all identical. So that means that I can do my spinner element and know that the front and the back will be the exact same shape. So I don't have to worry. Again, you could just add a smaller circle with the sentiments on them, and you could make that spin around with the little circle. But I thought it'd be fun to switch it up and do just the sentiment as the spinner element. So this is the exact same as the first spinner card that I shared with you. We are going to simply adhere those sentiments together with the string in the middle, and I'm aiming for the middle of the middle so that it is nice and central, and those sentiments are nice and inside that circle so they're not going to catch on anything. And then when the recipient opens it up, it spins all around like crazy. So I really hope you enjoyed crafting with me today and got something out of this video and feel inspired to make some simple but wow factor cards of your own. Thank you so much for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you again next weekend. Take care and bye for now.